an investor, because you come in and we talk about the stocks, you buy into the stocks, you make good trades off of the stocks, and then we start looking into um, what are the things that we're going to be trying to grab. Like, for example, the Zim stock has gone down about 40 cents over the past week, which is good for us because we haven't bought into it yet. Last time I looked at it, it's around about 15.40 per share, with at least a 74 cents per share payout. And we're still watching it because we're expecting it to go even lower over the next few days and potentially level off at about the 23rd, 25th of the month. So I'm watching the dip, waiting for it to reach the lowest that it could potentially go for the month before we go ahead and grab it. And then we're going to be is Zim going down? Yeah, so when we get into Zim and Zim goes back up, we should be getting into Zim at a even lower level than what it was last week, which then allows us to have a lower loss, because those who bought in, that was like 15.90 or 16.20, it's now 15.40. If it goes up, for those people that are buying into it, if it goes up another dollar over the next 2 weeks, by the first of the month, it will be more than 75 cents higher than what you bought into it. When it does take the 75-cent dip, it'll take that 75-cent dip above your buy-in. So when you sell, you have a gain. That's what we're looking at. We're trying to get the gain on top of the dividends. Now, Two Harbors just paid out. So, and Global Net's supposed to be paying out soon. So you need to be looking at those as part of. So I was surprised today. I was looking at, oh snap, such and such is dropping dividends right now. So the buy-in has gotten even higher. So I was like, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and put that with everything else, and then we're just going to throw it all in and see what we can pull off. Now, remember, the end goal of the dividend rotation strategy is to double your income. Clearly, you want to double, quadruple, triple your income, clearly. But you also want to put yourself in a position where you can do more buy and holds and do less of the dividend rotation with your capital, because any stock options that are moving on a regular basis, those stocks are going to be taxed normally based on your status, your income status. But any stock options that's not moving, those stock options can fall into the exemption levels if it falls under your $64,000 as a head of household scenario, or if it falls under your $97,000 of merit status. So you want to move as much money around as possible so that you can get as much return off of each quarterly stock as possible every month. But then you also want to park more than half of the money that you have in your portfolio in monthly stocks that are going to pay you monthly dividends, preferably the highest payout that's going to happen per month with the lowest buy-in. And right now, AGNC and Orchid Island are the two lowest, but I do believe Arbor Realty is the third one that is also the lowest, where they put out between 12 and 24 cents a share, and they're under $20 a stock to buy. Specifically, AGNC and Arbor Realty are both under $10 a stock, balancing off anywhere between $7 and $9 a share. So, which is very good, because typically a 10% valued stock is going to give you 10 cents on every dollar. So if it's a $9 stock, it's 9 cents. So if it's a $9 stock and it's giving you 12 cents, it's got a higher valuation than most of the other stocks. So that's another thing that, guys, y'all got to look at when you're thinking, oh, well, how much am I getting off of this versus how much am I paying? Look at the P&E, the price that you buy in versus the profits versus investments, the P&E. If it's substantially lower, where the buy-in is lower and the payout is higher, you're going to have a better result. We keep paying attention to these as we go along. But I wanted to let Steven know, yeah, we're watching that stock. We're enthusiastic about the outcome, but it is going down in our favor because we don't currently own it. The other stocks have leveled off and they are starting to make a little bit of a rise. And as they do, we will see ourselves potentially selling off any stock, any quarterly stock that did not get sold off because the stock value was too low. So we're going to be talking about that later in the week as well. But let's sink into the thought for a second of the fact that we need about $1,100 a month income coming in order to get a retirement visa in Colombia. And then we're going to switch over and talk about the emotional damage that leads to adult mistakes. Now, to even legally be allowed to retire in Colombia, the government requires you to have an income that's almost double the $600 per month budget that we've tested. So you can't just show up with $600 a month in the bank and expect to get a residency visa. The Colombian government needs to know that retirees can support themselves and won't be a drain on the system. So you can be the most frugal person in the world, but the official rules are the official rules. So that whole idea of retiring in Colombia on a $600 a month is basically dead on arrival from a legal perspective for anyone starting out. So you can't even get the visa to live this particular type of lifestyle in the first place. Now, the thing is that if you are coming in on that $600 a month income, you have a $1,100 or $1,200 a month income or $2,000 a month income even, but you're living that $600 a month lifestyle. You could live the budget and take the difference, the other $500 or $700 a month, and invest it in the stocks, put up savings, put up an emergency fund, slip off the budget every now and again and still be able to maintain. So there is a little bit more wiggle room for a better standard of living if you're holding on to $1,100 or $1,200 a month. But that is a massive detail that clickbait videos that you guys see conveniently forget to mention, that you can go places and you can do things and it could cost you this little bit on paper, but this is funny. So special shout out says, are you free for hire? Well, I am not free. And depending on what you're hiring me for, depends on how much it's going to cost you. And it will have to be an appropriate endeavor and preferably a legal one. So think about that. So after our deep dive, the final verdict of retiring in Colombia for $600 a month, we understand that 2025 reality check it's a myth that you can't do it for $600 a month. But while you technically scrape by on that amount, if you're already a resident and willing to live an incredibly modest life full of sacrifices, it is not realistic or sustainable plan for the average person who wants to retire there. And most importantly, the visa rules make it legally impossible for a newcomer. So the dream of being sold online to do something like this is just that. It's a dream. It ignores the law and completely downplays the huge lifestyle changes and constant financial stress that comes with living with no financial cushion. But this doesn't mean retiring in Colombia is a bad idea. It's a fantastic idea. The cost of living is genuinely much lower than North America and Europe. And a more realistic budget of $1,400 to $2,000 a month can give you a very comfortable, exciting, and full of life experience in a very beautiful country. Now, that's the part that I wanted to make sure that you guys understood when we covered Colombia earlier this week, is that while $600 a month to live over there is not feasible, $1,400 to $2,000 a month is more than feasible. And when you think about how $2,000 a month can give you a seemingly lavish lifestyle with the visa status and other such, where you could afford nice apartments, the travel, and all of the comforts that you want, the healthcare, the privatized healthcare being great, where the people are incredibly welcoming and the culture is amazing. $2,000 a month is 24,000 a year. That is the lower levels of poverty in the United States, and that's not something that people think about. So, touching base on those naysayers who look down on the passport bros that fly to other countries, uh, find themselves a partner and then settle down in other countries, or the old guys who fly to the other country and move out there and stay out there. You've got to think about the fact that out there, for less than 30,000 a year, where you would need government assistance in the United States to survive, out there you don't need nothing. You don't need nothing else. You got it. You got it all. You got everything that you need. So the lesson is to be realistic when it comes to that. You want to not fall for the flashy headlines. You want to do your own research and understand the true cost, and more importantly, understand the visa rules when you're going to go to other countries. So Colombia can absolutely be a retirement paradise, but the paradise has a price tag. And for a comfortable legal retirement, that price is just not $600. So with that being said, let's go ahead and slide into tonight's discussion. We want to understand. Uh, we want to understand the way our childhood has impacted our adulthood. So I want to start off by asking you guys: do you ever feel like you're living the same toxic relationships over and over, just with a different person? That's something that we need to discuss real quick. Do you wonder why you keep attracting partners who are emotionally distant, critical, or just plain unhealthy for you? I actually had this conversation similarly to some of my students last night. So it's an incredibly frustrating and lonely cycle. And if you're feeling stuck in it, I want you to know that you are not alone. I got to keep reminding you guys this. Millions of people go through the same thing, but very few of us know how to navigate ourselves out of it. And because of this, many of us end up asking, why does this keep happening? Is something wrong with me? The constant disappointment, circular arguments, the feeling of walking on eggshells, it's enough to make you question your own judgment and your own worth. So you might even start to believe that this is just what love is supposed to be for you. But what if the answer isn't about some flaw in who you are today? What if the root of this pattern aren't in your current dating life at all, but in a place you might not think to look, your childhood? So we're going to explore the powerful and often invisible ways your early years shape your adult relationships, and most importantly, how you can start to break free. So this connection between our past and our present isn't just a theory, it's a well documented psychological reality. And this is coming from a non shameful perspective. So, ladies, instead of blaming a guy for his childhood upbringing because you don't like his decision making process when it doesn't benefit you, we're really analyzing, why is it that you have the disappointment that you have in the relationships that you're in, which leads you to a breakup, whether you leave the other person or the other person leaves you. Why at 30 and 40 years old, 50 years old, you are still single after the multitude of relationships that you've had from as young as 14, 15, 16 years old? Why, after 20 years, you are still alone? You cannot say that you're alone by choice. You're alone because you gave up on trying to find a partner that suits you, because you are not satisfied with the quantity of effort and you're not willing to deal with the emotional distress that comes with navigating the dating field. It is what it is. Research from institutions like the CDC show that a majority of adults, around about 60%, have experienced at least one form of childhood trauma. This means millions of us are navigating relationships with the invisible weight of the past on our shoulders. And this isn't about blaming our parents or getting stuck in old stories. It's about understanding. It's about finally turning on the lights in a room you've been stumbling around for years. Because once you can see the blueprint, you can start redesigning the house. So, how can things that happened so long ago have such a powerful grip on us now? It comes down to how our brains develop. Think of your childhood mind as a new computer, and your early experiences are the first software programs being installed. Your family, caregivers, and environment, they all write the base code of how you operate. This initial programming shapes how you see the world, how you see yourself, and crucially, how you understand love. Okay? This isn't just a metaphor, it's a neurobiology. Now, chronic stress or trauma in the childhood can physically change the developing brain, especially the parts that handle emotional regulation, decision making, and stress. And that's one of the reasons why we're going to be talking about this today, because your decisions in your personal life can negatively impact your finances. Your decisions in your business life can negatively impact your business. Your decisions in your business life can negatively impact your personal life. And these decisions can stem from a bad start out. So when a child grows up with abuse, neglect, or even just consistent emotional unavailability, their brain adapts to survive. It creates what you could call a trauma lens, a way of seeing the world that is wired for threat and instability. That lens doesn't just vanish when you turn 18. It becomes the default filter for all your future relationships. Your nervous system, trained for high alert, might actually feel bored or anxious when things are peaceful and stable. The body, as they say, keeps the score. This old programming runs deep, often completely outside of our conscious awareness. We think we're making rational choices about who to date, but our subconscious, guided by this old software, is often the driver's seat that we do not pay attention to. It's drawn to what's familiar, even if that familiarity is painful. This is why we might consciously want a kind, stable partner, but find yourselves irresistibly drawn to someone chaotic and unpredictable. I love the way he does this. Where do you live? You don't get that information. And then he says, is this AI real? Or is AI real? And is this AI? Well, buddy, Ray, this is a live podcast. But as I've mentioned to you before, that you got to be here with appropriate communication, and you were borderline not appropriate. And because we're borderline not appropriate, your comments are not being shown above. And as your comments start getting even more inappropriate, they will not be responded to. So, but for all those others that are here to try to learn something that they can take away and apply to themselves or apply to someone that matters to them, because a lot of times being part of a support group allows you to help someone else better themselves, even if you're not ready to help yourself. One of the best things about being a therapist is fixing other people's problems and ignoring your own. I strongly recommend, every therapist has a therapist. I strongly recommend that you work on yourself before you help other people pull themselves out of the gutter, because you are not an asset to others when you are a liability to yourself. Plain and simple. No matter how much you think you're helping somebody else, you are not an asset to the people around you when you are a liability to yourself. Make sure that y'all like and subscribe. Now, it's not a character flaw that we're talking about here. It's a feature of your original programming. The consequences are profound. Adults with a history of childhood trauma are more likely to experience depression, anxiety, PTSD, complex PTSD, which is also called CPTSD, all of which strain relationships. They're also a higher risk of what's known as re-victimization, unconsciously finding themselves in relationships that mirror the toxic dynamic of their past. This isn't a coincidence. It's a pattern. And it's a pattern you can absolutely interrupt. To do this, we have to understand exactly how this programming keeps us trapped. So let's look at the three main ways your childhood might be keeping you in toxic relationships. First, we're going to talk about the most powerful one. This way, our childhood keeps us stuck. It's going to be normalizing unhealthy behavior. Our family is our first school for relationships. It's where we learn what love is supposed to look like, how conflict is handled, and what is considered acceptable between people who care about each other. That becomes our normal. If you grew up in a home with constant yelling, criticism, or emotional chaos, you may have internalized this as a normal part of love. As a kid, you have no other frame of reference. The tension and unpredictability become your definition of home. So, as an adult, a calm, peaceful relationship might feel boring. Marinate on that for a second, ladies. It might even make you feel suspicious. Your nervous system collaborated to high stress, does not know what to do with peace. So you might find yourself drawn to partners who create drama, which is irony because you yourself are not a drama queen, but you attract yourself to people who create drama, leading you to have a drama-filled life. Whether it is your romantic partner or you draw yourself to friends that are damaged, like they literally hold massive quantities of drama in their lives, and you make it your duty to work through their drama for them. The Captain Save-A-Ho syndrome, making the intense highs and lows for passion in a romantic relationship, but the trauma bonds in platonic relationships with friends. Michael says needs to learn to get off the hamster wheel. Yeah. In order to stop experiencing the same thing over and over again, you have to put a stop to the repetitive behavior. One of the things that I've told you guys in relationships on a regular basis is that if you're looking at the same behavior in this relationship that you've seen in the last relationship and the one before, the common factor in every relationship is you. And the idea is that partially the reason why you're going through what you're going through is because of repetitive decisions that you're making and repetitive actions that you're allowing to be performed. So changing the dynamic requires you to change the style and type of person that you're communicating with, that you're engaging with, and change certain circumstances that you are willing to allow to be conducted in your presence. Michael says the pendulum syndrome. Yeah. Now, in reality, you're just gravitating towards the emotional climate that feels like home, which is the toxic one that you grew up in. On the flip side, if you grew up with emotional neglect, where your feelings were constantly ignored or diminished, you learn that your needs don't matter. So you learn to suppress your feelings and become fiercely self reliant. As an adult, this can make real intimacy feel terrifying. A partner who is genuinely interested in your feelings can feel overwhelming or intrusive. And a lot of y'all identify that feeling as the other person love bombing you and gaslighting you simply because you do not have the capabilities and capacity to understand that someone truly does have the love and affection and compassion for you from the first day they met you, valuing you from the first day they met you unconditionally. You might push them away, not because you don't care, but because their emotional availability feels alien and unsafe. So you end up choosing partners who are themselves distant because that dynamic feels comfortable. It matches the normal that was programmed into you long time ago. So an example of this would be someone like Anna, whose father was a critical man who only showed approval when she achieved something. Love in her home was conditional. As an adult, Anna is drawn to men who are aloof and hard to please. She works tirelessly to earn their affections. Her friends see these men as cold, but for Anna, the struggle to be good enough feels like love. She's reenacting the dynamic she learned as a child, that love isn't a given, but a prize to win. Or consider David, who grew up with an anxious mother whose mood were unpredictable. He learned to be her caretaker. As an adult, he's drawn to emotionally unstable partners. So he sees them as sensitive people who need his help, and he prides himself on being their rock. He doesn't realize he's not choosing a partner, but a patient. The role of caretaker is so deeply ingrained that it feels like his purpose, even though it exhausts him. So no one consciously chooses a relationship that makes them unhappy. We are drawn to what resonates with our earliest understandings of love. So the toxic behavior isn't seen as toxic, it's just familiar. Breaking this pattern starts with the brave act of questioning your normal, and it requires looking at the dynamics you've always accepted and ask, is this actually healthy? And is this what I want love to feel like? Michael says one of her base needs were not met in childhood. Exactly. Exactly. So, this is one of the reasons why some people behave the way they do. Uh, a lot of times we might see negative behavior from our partner, and that is how they express love because that's how they experience what they thought was love in their childhood when that actually was more to the lines of toxic behavior. Good to see you, Jim. Glad that you appreciate what you appreciate. Now, the second major pattern is powerful. Subconscious drives to heal old wounds by replaying them in the present. Psychologists sometimes call this repetition compulsion. Essentially, a part of you want to return to an unresolved childhood situation, hoping to finally get a better outcome. If you felt powerless as a child, you might choose a pattern you think you can control. If you were abandoned, you might choose partners who threaten to leave so you can finally succeed in making them stay, right? This is why you might feel like you're dating your mother or your father over and over, just in different bodies. The partner might have the same temper, the same emotional distance, or the same critical nature as the parent who hurt you the most. Consciously, it makes no sense. Why choose that pain again? Michael says, returns in the mind. Yes, sir. The Every little thing that you've experienced as a kid, kids are sponges, and every little thing that you experience as a kid is regurgitated as an adult. And it is something that, as adults, once we have developed emotional intelligence, we learn to navigate through. But a lot of times we don't reach that emotional intelligence until we're middle aged or older, after that midlife crisis where we've had an emotional breakdown or an emotional breakthrough, where we come to realize that the way we've been navigating life, we can no longer navigate it that way. And then we start making drastic, sudden changes in our lives in order for us to reach the um, new goals that we have set for ourselves. Daddy syndromes was not just so we call them daddy syndromes and daddy issues and mommy issues and stuff to that effect. But oh wow, um, we have one guy that's thanking us for supporting Diddy during the trial. We covered Diddy during the trial when he first got his 30+1 years, but we okay. You're welcome. Like and subscribe, because we talked about how can somebody get almost as many convictions as Trump, but they go to prison and Trump didn't. But it is what it is. Back to the main topic. It's not just like daddy syndrome. It's just because it can be mom and dad, but it's not just mom and dad. It's aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, sisters, brothers, the neighbors. Because if your parents left you by your neighbors more often than they were with you because your parents worked two jobs, you have the unavailability emotionally from your parents because they're never home. You have the discipline styles from the neighbor that you were left with. You have the way you guys interacted as kids growing up because the parents were rarely there. Then you have whatever praise came whenever it came. If it was selective amongst the children, the one that got the least praise would might consider themselves the black sheep of the family, which is the one that is the most rejected. But the one that received the least praise might have been the child that did not need as much emotional coddling, where that child might have been perceived by the adults as more mature. So instead of them pampering that child, they would be respectfully more adult like with the children. Now, the difference is that the kids that are perceived as more weak are going to be more pampered and more coddled. But that from the person that's being less addressed is going to feel like there's a level of favoritism, because there is. Whether you want to or not, there is always going to be another scenario with where one of your kids you're going to give more attention to and put more effort into than another. Why you do that isn't because they're your favorite specifically. It might just happen because one needs more than the other. One's less efficient than the other. One is less rebellious than the other. There's reasons why you make these decisions subconsciously, but it's not because you just ideally say, okay, this one out of all of them, this one's going to be my favorite. No, it just so happens that you mesh better with that one than you do with the others. He said, I like girls with daddy issues. Well, Older men are going to be more acceptable to younger women with daddy issues. 60% of the population is going to come damaged from their childhood, and then the other 40% is probably going to be damaged from their relationship track. And out of the damage that we have to sift through, the easier ones to cope with are the ones that have lack of recognition from their childhood that is reflected upon their adulthood, because you're able to get you a companion that is going to be respectful and hopefully cooperative. It's not about finding somebody that you can condition into doing whatever you want them to do, but it is about finding somebody who can learn from you, because typically men are supposed to be or expected to be the ones that teaches the relationship, because the hierarchy of the hypergamy theory is that women want men that are stronger, taller, more successful, smarter. So if the guy is better in every way, when you choose him, then that guy is the guy that's teaching you how to be better, which means that the role of the man is to educate the woman and share in the decision making process to some degree. Now, in that dynamic, only in that dynamic, now, if she's choosing a guy that is inherently smarter than her, then she needs to be able to follow the instructions, learn from him, then adapt to what she's learned and start enhancing more efficiency in her learning. Now, in that part, when she starts to evolve from what she's learned from her partner, she starts to become more self-sufficient in a relationship and starts becoming more of a partner in the relationship. But that's like the training phase. You learn how to do this job of being the girlfriend, and then when you do it well enough, you're able to perform this job as the wife, which means now I can be more dependent upon my wife, because as my girlfriend, I was able to teach her what she needed to do to be efficient in my life. Clearly, in the Western culture, men are more trained to be submissive to the women, to please the women and entertain the women, but less likely to drive the women to their success. Just the subordinate behavior where the women feel like they're valued because the man is submissive, but they don't like submissive men, which is strange. So, why force the man to be submissive unless there's an underlying reason why you're not validated if you're not in control? Got to think about that. You still have to understand that your subconscious mind is not trying to suffer, it's trying to win. Your inner child is thinking, this time I'll make them love me. This is where you're going to get that forcing submissiveness onto someone else. This time I'll be good enough. The daddy issues, this time I will fix them. The emotional disturbed issues. And that will fix the part of me that broke. That's the underlying reason why subconsciously people are functioning this way. This often shows up in the savior dynamic, which we have clearly identified as the Captain Save-A-Ho theory. It is not just dudes going after women. It is anybody who is coming out there like Captain Kirk trying to fix a situation that they otherwise would not have been belonging in or involved in any way, shape, or form. If you had a partner or a parent who struggled with addiction or mental illness, you might have become a little caretaker. If you had an adult in your child life that had health issues that required seemingly in-house health care, you might have fallen into a caretaker position. If you had siblings that needed a lot of um, uh, looking after, you might have become a caretaker. When we make usually the oldest child look after the younger children, that child starts parenting at 14, 15, 17 years old and starts developing caretaker behavior. Usually, the older boys go out and get jobs, and usually the older girls babysit the kids. So the parenting behavior from the mothers, from the women, start at teenage years and navigates into their adulthood. Usually, leaving the home and going to make money to pay for things is embedded into the boys, and that trickles into their adulthood. Eric says, when they try to emasculate you, it's over. Bro, it's not over, but it needs to be. These young men right now in modern 2025 that are in relationships with reasonably attractive women because they're reasonably attractive and willing to put out. These guys are allowing themselves to be emasculated in ways where they're not able to recover their masculinity while they're in their relationship. Then what they do to find balance in their masculinity is they become overly masculine around other men so that they can identify themselves as men. But the overly aggressive behavior that they perform when their woman is not around is not the submissive behavior that they perform when their woman is around. Then they have this social stigma where individuals are now hoping that their homeboys will help them play the role of being submissive, even when they would prefer not to be submissive. But this is all going to work themselves into a position where they're going to put on a role so that they can maintain the emotional partner that they have. But that does not mean that that's what they deserve, which this would lead them down a path where if they came across a female that did not emasculate them, they might walk away from their 20-year marriage because they're finally being valued, appreciated, and respected as a man. Women wonder why they put all of this effort into their man, but they're really putting all their effort into controlling this man. And then when the man finds somebody that's not going to control him, but appreciate him, things change. Think about that. Michael says, or the child becomes the adult in the family. That is another scenario when the child has to get a job at a younger age, has to start taking care of the other people in the the child becomes more of an adult and starts taking care of the other people in the family. That does change the dynamic. So that does put us in a different position because you're making different types of choices. Likewise, when you become older, you end up with that role change because when you start taking care of your parents becomes a subordinate, and when your parents become a subordinate, that's when you become the authority to your once authority figure. Now, this is a dynamic in life where you have the opportunity to get revenge on the people who treated you the way they treated you when you were younger, but it also gives you the opportunity to understand why they made the poor choices that they made, where their intentions might have started off being good, but just had a negative fallout on you, where you then have to make the better choice for them, even though they didn't make the better choice for you when you were growing up, which is another level of redemption for you there. Special shout out to Jesse. Jesse says, what, yo, Xander, did you change your hair? Well, I took the headphones off. My hair has always been on my head. Did I redirect it in a different direction? Because instead of it going down my back, it's coming across the front. I guess, yeah, kind of did. Christopher Bristol, he's asking, what are you talking about? We're talking about how your background shapes your relationships in your future, in your adult life. We're talking about how things that you experienced in your original core upbringing, your environment in and of itself, not just mommy and daddy issues, that developed your decision-making process in your younger years, which led to why you make the decisions that you make in your adult life. For example, some of the people who inappropriately troll the podcast are attention seekers. They are seeking attention through social media validation because they did not get attention when they were younger. Those individuals come on in a negative fashion because they understand in their childhood that the only time that they ever received any attention was when they were being disciplined for inappropriate behavior. as an adult, those exact same trolls will then come on to this podcast and many other podcasts and make a negative comment to trigger the podcaster or some of the people in the comment section to respond negatively to them. They will get that euphoria of feeling at home with the negative response to their behavior because that is how they've expressed themselves, which is very impressive that we're able to analyze that while we're talking about this on the show. Eric says, the minute women try to buy your clothes, it's over. Well, Eric, the fact is that a valuable woman actually would buy your clothes. But a valuable woman would buy your clothes, buying the style of clothes that you would normally wear yourself, not changing who you are for what she would prefer you to be. Back in the 70s, a man would go to work all day, bring his money back to his wife. She would take his money and she would take care of the bills. She would take care of the food. She would take care of the kids. She would take care of his clothes. Then the money left over, she would put it somewhere to save it for the Christmas presents and other such things. And the men that were taking care of the best by their woman wouldn't know his own pant size, wouldn't know his own shoe size. She would dress him so that he would look his best with the style that he normally would like. Back in those days, women put effort into their relationships and they put effort into their man and they put effort into their family. Modern times, we don't see that much. A woman shows up, she looks out for herself. It's every man for himself. And then after that, it's kind of done. But no, the truth is that those are the things that women used to do 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, that women don't do anymore. When men ask, what do women bring to the table? You essentially recognize nothing other than sex, because all of the things that women used to do to bring value into their relationship, the women have made that to be some kind of cardinal sin, where ultimately those scenarios do not resonate with them. They find it's oppressive and misogynistic to be a good partner in their relationship. But the same obedience that they give to their job is the same obedience they're supposed to give to their relationship. The same effort they give to their 9 to 5 is the same effort they're supposed to give to their family. They haven't thought about that yet. But again, something underlining in their upbringing is leading them to rebel against anything that they would recognize as an authoritative figure. So in their relationship, they're going to try to dominate their household because as children, they weren't able to dominate anything. You're going to see that. So Christopher asks, do I have a degree? Yes, microbiology, communication and health, and computer technology. So I have quite a few degrees. Do you want me to have a psychology degree to jump on top of that? Because my microbiology degree covered enough psychology and ethics and philosophy, in addition to physics, biology, microbiology, genetics, all of the other things that would lead to us talking about these, and the ability to do research. The average high school dropout, the average middle school dropout who knows how to read a book can do enough research to come up with the same kind of knowledge. Whether or not you have a piece of paper that you spent $250,000 to achieve, to get your hands on, doesn't necessarily make you more qualified than somebody else who read up the same information and just couldn't afford to get that piece of paper. So think about that for a minute, Chris. Michael said, next comes the comb over. Okay, I have tried the comb over. I've tried that Donald Trump comb over, and it kind of like comes and then it swoops and then it just doesn't do, like you can't tell. And then it ends up still going all the way to the back. So all it takes is for one time for me to get the sweat off the forehead, and the comb over turns into all the way to the back. So I was like, well, I want to get some sun on the opposite side of my skull. So I took the hair off my neck and brought it forward. And I'm like, all right, so we can see a different hairline now. It looks pretty cool. Eric says, the minute they buy the style they prefer to see you in is controlling behavior. And that is when it is time to stop. That's when it is over. When they start buying what they want you to wear, and then they're going to change your entire wardrobe, and then they're going to have a hissy fit if you don't put on what they want you to wear, but you can't tell them what to wear. That is when the dynamic shifts. It's okay for her to buy you some things that she would like for to see you in, but changing your entire style, like you guys see me in suits every day, for some chick to come out of nowhere and try to dress me like Usher, it wouldn't work for me. I might put that outfit on at the house for her once or twice, but every day I leave my house, I am leaving my house in the same suits that I have been leaving my house in. So if she wants to put me into something that actually she will see me in outside of my house, it would be a scenario where she would be buying me a suit that is different from the types of suits that I've always worn, where it kind of adds a little bit more flavor, a little bit more color to my attire, but it doesn't change the style that I already have. That would be the way that works. And then Eric says, do you remember when they said that men had the cowboy syndrome and that was bad? Well, back in those days, we were supposed to be trying to back in the day, we were supposed to be trying to capture these women, right? And tame women, right? And all that is you're taking a wild barroom woman and you're trying to turn her into a conservative housewife, which is stupid. It is stupid in and of itself. You are not supposed to force change on somebody else. If you were attracted to the wild woman, you accept the wild woman for the wild woman that she is. You don't just go out there and find the wildest dancing on a rooftop stripper pole chick and turn her into a born again Catholic. That's not what you're doing in a relationship. Special shout out to Bayside. I see you in here, Bayside. I gotta do this for you real quick, Bayside, because it's been a while. Well, I'm glad to see that he's still kicking. I'm glad to see that nothing bad has happened in his life. So it's real good that Bayside has been able to come back through. So we want to put our prayers out to Bayside's family and Carl Barton's family, because his dad wasn't doing so well and his brother went into surgery. So I wanted to make sure that those guys get special recognition today as well. So when Carl dives back in, can't say that I wasn't thinking about him. Got to take good care of you guys. Have your heart goes out to folks. He said, check you out. Xander without headphones. Okay, got that player cut. No, so what happened was I got a new headset. And the headset, this is one I was trying to make work yesterday. And you really can't see it. It actually is nearly invisible, especially with my hairline. And it almost matches with the sideburns that I would have had. So you wouldn't even know that I have headphones on with a microphone on it. So I actually have the whole, man, I kind of feel like one of those seminar folks that's walking around with they have the clear one where you can see the little clear ball thing by their mouth and stuff, but mine is like black on black, so it's, you can't tell. It's like SWAT style. I like it. I can see myself. The battery power on these is pretty sweet, so I could see myself, because I bought two pair. I can see myself linking the other one to my cell phone so that I could keep these on a regular basis, and then have conversations on the phone and stuff to that effect. If I was the kind of person to have conversations on the phone, and then nobody would know that I'm talking to somebody else. But if these were the noise, not the noise, the language translators, it'd be freaking awesome, because you would not know that I have a headset on and people would be talking at me in different languages, and I'd be able to translate and respond, at least respond back in English, because I don't know everybody's language. Michael said the Amish still do today with sewing bees when the men erect barns and other buildings, all the women cook. And I think we can learn something from them, a simpler lifestyle. That's actually, he said, look like Morris Day. That's actually a good phenomenon to think about with the Amish culture, but it's still something that they instill into one another. The guys, they have to get up at the crack of dawn. They have to build stuff. They have to go out and hunt, whatever the case may be. They're going to bring it back to the house. The women, they're going to cook, clean, sew. prep the food. Not necessarily saying, ladies, that women belong in the kitchen. The fact is that you learn your roles growing up, and those roles don't change as adults. The complication that we have is, he said, "Did I see the gift that comes?" Oh, I'm gonna get on that. I'm gonna get on that real quick, Jesse. But they said that um, where was I? Because Jesse gave me some information. I got to touch base on that real quick. Um, the dynamic that we have in Western culture is that somewhere between 16 and 18 years old, that the dynamics start shifting, and it goes from the masculine roles for the masculine men being the masculine men, change to the feminine expectation is the masculine role for women, and then the masculine role for men is to try to be more masculine than the masculine women. Otherwise, the men will end up falling into a level of subordinates, and once they fall into that level of subordinates, they become undesirable for the woman, and then the woman ends up dropping the guy like a bag of bricks to go find a more masculine guy, which then they force that guy into submission, and it's a vicious cycle. So you got to think about these changes. Jesse said, did you see the YouTube GIF I sent a couple of minutes ago? I've never sent one before. So I have not. Let me see where that would show up. Because usually they put the GIF thing up on the channel to kind of encourage people to do like Twitter and throw down on the on the podcasters. But no, actually, the last person to show me some respect on the channel financially was Bayside. So I actually have a list of every individual that has shown me some valued appreciation on my channel. Bayside was the last one to throw down. So no, Jesse, if you did put something on, I don't think it processed. I recommend that you try it again. And also check your credit cards to see if it actually happened, because you might have thought that you were doing it and then it didn't go through because YouTube is doing a bunch of changes right now. And whatever you wanted me to have, you got to give me twice as much, because YouTube's going to take half of whatever you give, because that's how YouTube is. Bayside said, Jesse, that's what everyone did back in the day. Oh yeah. So he's on the other topic. All good. Thank you, Xander. Yes. So they classified that men were taught to not cry or show their emotions, and shrinks called it the cowboy syndrome, and that was supposedly bad. Look where we today with all these confused fellas. The fact that men are not supposed to be emotionally expressive, it was shunned. I didn't know that they were referring to that particular scenario as the cowboy syndrome, but men weren't supposed to cry. Men weren't supposed to express themselves. They were supposed to compartmentalize and still get over it, which leaves men to be emotionally damaged. And that led to emotionally aggressive individuals, because instead of a man crying and expressing his sadness, he would switch that into anger. So what you think now as adults is that if you look back at the angry father or the angry uncle or the angry mother that will snap at the drop of a hat and start yelling and fussing and cussing instead of crying, those people were emotionally hurt. And instead of them crying in front of you, they were actually yelling and fussing and cussing and expressing themselves in an aggressive manner. So that is the craziest part of, as an adult, how we understand differently what we went through, which allows us to break the cycle. Bayside, thank you very much, Bayside. The headset is cool. The gift was above one of my comments earlier. Jesse, your comment came in as what, yo, did you change your hair, what's up? And then after that, there didn't didn't let's see some guys. Oh, there, 2 joules. There it is. So it's in there. It is in there, Jesse. There are 2 joules in there. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's not showing up where everything else shows up. So it's in there. But that comment section on YouTube is not the comment section I'm looking at on StreamYard. So I got to go and see somewhere else. Eric says, I saw it above his name and said 100. It says 100, but it also says 2 joules. So I had to go back and look. And it says Jesse Smith sent 100 for 2 joules. So thank you very much, Jesse, for, I don't know if that's 100 pennies, or I don't know how the gift thing works with the gems. It's like you it's almost like the TikTok thing where you click on little whatevers and then it kind of pings it to the channel. Eventually that's going to come to the channel. It's going to notify me directly, but it's they haven't manifested a way to make it better. But thank you so much, Jesse. I never forget to recognize anybody who's ever tried to show me a little bit of support of any kind, because it all goes back into the podcast, because you know that Twitter is coming out of pocket right now. Twitter got it coming out like what, $20-something a month to stream on the channel. It ain't free. It ain't free to live stream. So definitely really appreciate every little bit that counts. Or most of us call it learning resiliency. Well, you develop resiliency towards negative behavior like guilt trips. So when you were growing up and you were more innocent, your parents or family members, friends, other adults in your life would guilt you into doing things that you would otherwise not do. You would, even in an uncertain and reluctant fashion, perform that action. Once you've performed the action and you realize that the emotional manipulation that they were utilizing was just to get you to do what you didn't want to do, you start recognizing certain key phrases and certain dialogues that leads to you being manipulated. As you get older, you start developing a level of resilience where the puppy dog eyes don't work, the bursting out into tears don't work, the loud voices, because sometimes people get afraid when people start raising their voice and panic as to how society would see this interaction. So they would do whatever they can to quiet down the other person so that they're not embarrassed in public. You start acting ass like that with me, you just gonna be out there acting ass because I'm not getting whatever it is that I said I wasn't gonna get. Because I said no, because that level of guilt trip, making a scene in public to compel me to do something that I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna do that. I would otherwise not bring you out in public because I don't want that scene to occur. You would lose the ability to enjoy life with me if your behavior is not appropriate. But that comes from a level of resilience. Communication is the key. You can negotiate. I'll get it another time. I don't have the capabilities to get it right now. It's not in the budget. I'll put it in the next budget or something to that effect. I'll order it, get it delivered to the house, something like that. But just because you see it in a grocery store doesn't mean that you get it now. Jesse says, I get along with my parents better now than I did after becoming 18. There was some growth on both parts, but forgiveness is key. People shouldn't hang on to bad moments. We can just move forward. That's actually very true, Jesse. The hardest part is to recognize that your parents didn't know what they were doing when they started. They were making it up as they go along. They were winging it. If they had back-to-back children, they learned from the first child what not to do and reinforce that with the second and third child. And then life changes. So by the time they get to the third child, now the relationship between mom and dad is different. So when you're the last kid, you're not going to get the same lifestyle that the first kid got. And the first kid is going to have it way worse than the second kid. And usually, because there's so many kids, Some kids get forgotten because they're more self-sufficient. And that typically is a dynamic where each child in the same household has different experiences. Now, once you guys become adults, you have to forgive and let go. You don't have to forget about it. You just have to let go of the negativity from your childhood and be able to establish a positive behavior going forward. It's what you're doing now that has me behaving the way I'm behaving, not what you did 30, 40 years ago when I was a kid that has me behaving the way I'm behaving now. And that allows you to have a positive future instead of harboring resentment and not allowing the redemption. Because I've said this on the show plenty of times before, is that redemption requires for the person who has at fault done something that they were not supposed to do to make a change and perform better going forward, which means that you cannot continue to condemn the person going into the future for any actions and behaviors that they may have performed in the past, where you're not allowing that person to improve, change, or grow in any way. You're keeping them prisoner of a past decision. Now, uniformly speaking, you yourself want to reset, you want to redo, you want to take that back. You cannot have the mentality of condemning somebody else for past action and then yourself ask for immediate forgiveness when you recognize that your decisions did not end up in the direction of the outcome that you were looking for. So having more compassion for the other person to say, well, if I would have fucked up, I would want somebody to let me slide with it. At the same time, when somebody fucks up in your presence, you want to say, well, you know what? Depending on the magnitude of it, I'm going to let you slide eventually. Now, I'm going to be mad at you for it a little bit, but eventually I'm going to get over this. I'm going to let you slide with it. And we're going to move forward like it didn't happen. But I'm always going to remember the fact that it happened. And when I start seeing that you might be doing the same, then I'm going to start reminding you, hey, I let it go last time. I'm not going to let it go this time. Something to that effect. Michael says, setting fire to the Christmas presents. True story. Bro, you're not supposed to be setting fire to the Christmas presents. This is where we disagree. When you fall off your bike as a kid and you cry and you get over it today, many would call it trauma in their childhood. Well, I wouldn't call falling off your bike as a kid and crying about it, or falling off your bike as a kid and not crying about it, trauma. Uh, okay, so back in the day, there were certain kids that were good with pain, physical pain. We're not talking about emotional pain. We're talking about physical pain. And with physical pain, the kids would fall off the bike and they would dust themselves off. They might like a little bit and then like rub it a little bit and then get back on the bikes and keep riding. But they got some that'll just be there, just crying forever, never moving, and just wallowing in the fact that they got hurt. And adults don't know how to shut the kids up. And they're just like, you know what? Just suck it up. Be a man. You're a young man. Boys don't cry. Suck it up. Get back on the bike. Go ride the bike. In a sense, outside of the emotional suppression that goes on there, the physical ability to stop dwelling on the past and start focusing on trying this bike riding thing again, working through the pain, working through the fear, working through the anxiety, and achieving your goal was the positive intent of the adult. But yes, continuously telling the kids that there's never an opportunity in life where you are able to cry, that there's never a location in life where you can release all of the stress and frustration and anger and fear that you have. Yeah, that's completely unhealthy. So I mesh well with you, Eric. The stuff that they got going on with it, everything is trauma now. Like they got like the trigger word. Trigger is like when people tell you shit you don't want to hear. That's what it is. You don't want to hear that shit. And now they're calling that being triggered. And the truth is that there's never going to be a moment in life where somebody that doesn't know who you are is not going to trigger you, because they're going to tell you what they want you to know, whether you want to hear it or not. And that is triggering. It is your responsibility to release the trigger and not Columbine the situation. Really that's something that people don't pay attention to. Eric said, did you ever hear of ACEs? Depending on what you mean by ACEs, because we were taught to keep their ACEs in their places, and then there's also other variations of ACEs that also goes along with that. Michael said, walk it off. Man, we went from walk it off, take a salt tablet, throw some spit on it. We had all kinds of stuff. Shake it off, brother, shake it off. Get back out there, you know. Break your leg, we walked it off. Fell off the monkey bars, lost 2 teeth, got back on them dang monkey bars till it was time to go to the dentist. I'm telling you. And I still got big fronts. Not even sitting here talking about oh, I had this injury when I was a kid and I ain't got no, nah, I got all of them and they all real. Jesse said, I got a promotion offer from my job, but am unsure if I want it. I struggle with consistency in work sometimes, but I do some great stuff once focused. I'm not in love with the job, but it's more money. So think about this, Jess. If the promotion is going to give you more authority, where you can delegate some of your work, there's some things that you can pass down to the lower level individuals that they can do to kind of take you away, take some of the stress off your plate. Usually the pay raises comes with a promotion comes with a paid raise. It comes with a paid raise, more benefits, other such. Then that's beneficial for you, especially if you can take that difference and invest it into a longer retirement. If you do have subordinates that you can delegate work to, you can then find priority in helping each individual with their workload so that they have more free time to take over your workload. So you can then, with a team of people that's under you, you can then pick and choose what you actually want to do. Now, while the work is still going to be turned into the boss, instead of you manually doing all of the work, you're now just proofreading most of the work. And then based on which person has which assignments, you pick and choose what stuff they do that you can say, well, I can go and do that and knock that out and get that out of the way for them so that they've got more time to do for you the stuff that you don't want to do. Likewise, though, with a lot of promotions, because I had a job that wanted to promote me for years and I refused the promotion because in getting that promotion gave me more responsibilities to the job as far as time. And that put me in a position where I was like, man, I'm not trying to marry the job. And when it comes to that, I wanted the ability to come and go as I please. So I turned down the responsibility of having to mandatorily be there on a regular basis. But when I think about how, if I would have taken that job position, that I was already there more than the bosses. So if I would have took that boss position, I would have just been doing the job I'm always doing. I would have been mandatorily required to do it instead of voluntarily doing it, but I would have been getting the same quantity of money for the job title because I was already doing the work. So think about that for a moment. Eric says, you would be surprised how long people will hold on to something like that as a trauma, or that, for example, bikes are triggers. It's soft. Yeah, it is extremely soft. He said, adverse childhood experiences. Get that man a shovel. Look, now, I'm going to be real with you now. How life impacts the other person is going to be completely different than how life impacts us. When we watch a child have a temper tantrum and they're wallowing all over the floor, we're confused as to how we're going to respond to that. And I had one child that was wallowing all over the floor, having a temper tantrum because I don't remember what she wanted. It was like a juice or a snack or something like that. I don't even remember. But her temper tantrum, I turned it into a game. I wasn't going to watch the temper tantrum, so I just covered her in a white sheet. And then when she sat up and she was like, and I'm like, now you're a ghost. I can't see you. And this turned into a thing. And eventually her brother comes in and he's like, ooh, do me. And I cover both of them. And so I turned the temper tantrum into like giving them the attention that they were looking for, which really a lot of times is what it is, the seeking of attention. But when it comes down to adverse childhood experiences, unnatural. Well, I can't say unnatural because it's common childhood experiences. The unexpected childhood experiences that we don't address appropriately because we didn't have proper guidance growing up. So we are not going to address it appropriately. The kids are not going to respond to it the way we would hope that they would respond to it. And then we have an adverse outcome. As parents, our parenting doesn't stop at childhood. Our parenting then becomes mentorship as young adults and guidance as the sage elder of the family. But the fact is that the product of your decisions when you were growing up in this situation, you have to look at that and be like, yeah, I kind of caused that. I'm sorry doesn't fix anything. I'm sorry doesn't make it go away. I'm sorry does not help people sleep at night. I'm sorry just allows you to stop bitching about it in this moment. That's what it does. But it doesn't, you don't even have to mean it. You're supposed to, but you don't even have to mean it. And it's just really horrible to throw I'm sorry out there so freely to the fact that it has lost its emotional impact. It is just something to say when you don't know what else to say. You're not truly apologetic. It's just that's what we're supposed to say at this moment in time. Jesse says there would be some managing stuff with the promotion, but also a bunch of boring responsibilities with stuff I don't enjoy. Biggest issue I have is having more mind numbing work and more oversight. Well, work is not going to be fun unless you start doing what you love for employment. But depending on what you love to do, it might not pay you as much as this job. So it might be mind numbing responsibilities. But if it takes you away from back-breaking labor, I'd enjoy it. Likewise, since you have a lot more oversight, you might have less paperwork. You might have more meetings, but you have to draft less documents. Um, you might have to watch, observe, look over the numbers, and coach more people, but you don't have to actually perform on the performance line. It's a benefit. I recommend that you take it, try it out. You can actually talk to your boss about a trial period where you get to experience the position if you're not already doing the position so that you can determine whether or not that is what you want to stick to before you decide on the promotion. Most jobs are not going to object to you performing the role before they give you the pay raise and the job title. So if you start working through it, you don't have to like it if you can do it and it's not stressful for you. Boring is good, Jesse. This is one of the things we were just talking about in this discussion as we get back into it, because Eric's got a lot of good things to say about it. Um, Boring is a good thing. Boring means that you're not stressed out. Boring means that you're not overwhelmed. So if the job position that you're getting is boring, that means that you can do this in your sleep, which also means that you should be the best you at it. Now, if you recognize that you have a level of procrastination and you recognize that you have a level of stagnation in your work ethic, since you have a lot of free time on your hands because you're bored, you can actually follow the I put up a couple shows about how to prioritize your time better, and then you can apply that into your workforce where you can stretch the work out and have more time to take more breaks so that you're not overwhelmed with boredom. Think about that. Eric said, I see you, Rick Shaw. I'm about to get down there. Eric said, they say that if you had a deep rooted trauma as a kid, it directly leads to health issues like weight, mental health, depression, etc. Yeah, yeah, that does happen. Falling off of a bike, I would not consider a deep rooted trauma, but if you fell off of a bike and broke a bone, or if you fell off of a bike and was completely ignored in a scenario where you might have felt like your life was in danger or whatever the case may be, then yeah, I could see falling off of a bike, depending on how it happens, leading into a deep-seated issue. But other areas, not just the bike falling off scenario, can lead to deep-seated traumas that leads us to poor decisions in our adult life. For example, the lack of authority in our childhood could lead to the Karens that are walking around bullying people into following their rules, even when they're not following societal rules. So this could actually go a whole lot deeper. Rickshaw said, "Hope you had a nice weekend. Happy Friday, brother." Definitely had a very crappy day yesterday when the car broke, but it has bounced back immediately after that. Since I own the car, I can just park it in the yard, and then when I decide to do something about it, I'll do something about it. Since I don't have to go anywhere, I can just order whatever I want to be delivered, and then if I do decide to leave the house in 2 weeks, I can just get an Uber. So it ain't that bad outside of paying for insurance for a car that don't run. Eric says, love is never having to say you're sorry. Love, I would debate that. Love should not require you to say I'm sorry to stop an argument. You apologize because you genuinely did not intend on that outcome negatively impacting your partner's emotional state. That does require an apology, a genuine one at that. However, intentional actions and behaviors that may or may not have the intended outcome should not require very many apologies. You should not apologize for the decisions that you make in life, but how your decisions directly impacts the people that matter to you most, that might require a little bit of an I'm sorry there. Like, that wasn't, I did not mean to cause you to cry in this particular situation. However, when you're in a really loving scenario, you should have a partner that is understanding enough not to burst into tears just to get that apology. They should be able to understand that what you did was not intended to hurt them. And while they might feel indifferent about your decision making process, they're going to try to help you navigate out of this family catastrophe. Because as a family, you're supposed to be in it together. If you're in a loving relationship, you're supposed to be in this together. So, with that in mind, think about when your family scenarios were tough when y'all were kids. You went up to your parents and you wanted to know what was going on. You wanted to know what was going on because you wanted to help. You wanted to help because your parents could not do it by themselves. That does not mean that your parents weren't good enough. It just means that your parents needed more help. If adults back in the day, when times were good and bad, they were clear with the children, this is where the family is. This is the dynamic that we have to manifest, right? The children can find their roles, whether it's being more helpful around the house, not being so demanding about frivolous things, whatever it is, to aid in the success of the family, what little bit they can do that you would then value because it takes stress off of your plate instead of keeping secrets from the children because you believe that they're not smart enough, they're not mature enough, they're not old enough to know these things. That is where the apologies come from, because you're keeping these secrets from the kids, which hurts their feelings. And they're in the room crying because you don't value them enough to put them to work in a situation when you clearly need more footwork. But you apologize because you kept this information from them because you wanted to shield them from the negative sides of society until they were old enough to handle it. However, what all of us needs to understand is that the younger you expose someone to something that you want them to be able to tackle, the more effective they will be able to tackle it on their own when there is no one there to protect them from it. If you shield them from it until they're 18, that is the first time they experience it. If you expose them to it with protection until they're 18, they should know how to handle it. Between 8 and 18, that's 10 years of seeing this. I should know what to do. But just saying stay in a child's place because you're a kid, and then if the scenario comes about where you need crossfire from the 8-year-old, I mean, they should have knew what to do from the beginning. Michael says, if you're taking a management position, it's because it becomes a trade-off: more work, less family time. Both answers are right. choose. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm saying I'd have more oversight over me from my bosses than my current job with more flexibility. But to your point, my bosses sound open to negotiate. Plus, not bought fully into the mission for the job. Well, you can negotiate your salary, you can negotiate your responsibilities. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with that. Since they're every employee, I told you guys about what happens when you quit your job. No, watch the video where I gave you the information, Jesse. It was about 2 weeks ago. I gave you guys the information on how to negotiate a raise and a promotion. Go, that's a whole hour to two. I think it was like a 2 hour show. Go through it and look at all the ways that you can negotiate this promotion. And then still again, decide it. Yes, the bosses are going to be closer to you because you're getting closer to management. So you're going to be closer to the managers, which means you're going to be seen more by the managers, but that also means that you're going to get promoted more often. You're going to be able to delegate. They're going to show you the ins and outs of how to uh, utilize your position to make your workload less stressful for you so that you can oversee more people. Their oversight on you is going to end up being your oversight on somebody else. So it isn't all that bad. But yes, you do marry the job. Yes, you will be looking closer to 65 or 70 hours a week, but you're going to be making more money. If you don't have a family that you want to dedicate yourself to, where this position will compromise your ability to be at home with your family when your family is at home looking for you, then take the job. That's how it is. Munchausen syndrome, right? That's not what they said in the movie Love Story. Love Story. I'll check out that video on promotions. I appreciate it. You're welcome. And salary negotiations, good stuff. I give you guys advice on everything under the sun, and eventually somebody's going to need it. And when you do, more than likely, you should be able to go into my search bar on the main platform, on the YouTube platform, and type something in that's related to that. And then it should show you at least one, if not more, videos that addresses that particular situation. And then you could be like, oh, this guy's going to be like a walking Google search of everything that ever happened in life. Derek said enough of the psychopathical stuff. It's triggering me. Let's talk stocks. I hate the word boss. Sounds like servitude to me. It's just a personal thing. Well, the boss is like the leader. Um, I know some people are going to regroup that from like the whole massa syndrome. I used to have a couple of employees that called me boss, and I didn't mind it, but it recognizes a rank in the social network of the employment. You don't necessarily have to call them a boss, but the new age phrase is supervisor, manager, superior. But again, it's still developing a hierarchy, and the lack of satisfaction at recognizing that someone is in some way, shape, or form above you is discouraging to some people. But the truth of the matter is that this person makes your schedule even if they don't sign your paycheck. And this person interferes with your ability to make money if you don't satisfy this person's expectations. So, leader of the shift, leader of the store, you know, upper management, the powers that be, however you align it, it is somebody that has more control over the outcome of your situation on your job site than what you have in that same situation. He said, thank you, enjoyed. Remember to talk. It's remember to like and subscribe. If anybody Michael be throwing them sound bites in the comment section. Look, if y'all like what y'all seeing right now, make sure that y'all like and subscribe. And if you don't, like it anyway. Like it and share it with somebody that you know that could benefit from it. Now, as an adult, you're going to come to understand that you're drawn to project. Now, this projection is going to be with partners. So people who are broken or struggling, this is what you're going to get. You see their potential and believe your love will be the magic ingredient that transforms them from being broken to not being broken. This feels noble, like an act of profound love, but it's often a reenactment of childhood powerlessness, which is also one of the things we were talking about before when I mentioned how those Karens that be coming out of nowhere, bullying you in society into doing what they want you to do, they have an instinctive trigger of feeling powerless in their own individual lives more often than you know, and they're trying to take charge of this particular moment and superimpose their authority upon you. I actually had this happen to me at a FedEx. I walked into the FedEx with one of my service dogs, and the guy did not know that the dog was in the building. Then, when the dog yawned, he looks over the counter. He sees the dog there, and he tells me that I can't have the dog in the building. Well, we're in the United States. Service dogs are allowed in every place that customers are allowed, and I'm a paying customer because the package was bought and now being shipped out through your company. So that means that the 5 minutes I'm here doing the handoff of the package, you're going to let me be here and not going to give me too much trouble. Well, the guy wanted to make it clear that if I was to come back into his restaurant or his, this is a UPS now. This is a package delivery center. This isn't even a restaurant. Restaurants love my dog. But the fact is that the package delivery place, he wants to say, well, if you come back, I'm not going to let him in. I'm like, bro, you will not only lose your job, you will cause your company a $500,000 lawsuit by not letting me walk in and hand my package to the guy that's actually helping all the customers because you're the manager. You're coming from the back of the building. You're not even taking care of anybody right now. So this conversation boiled up because he felt like if he could assert his authority in this scenario, and I had respect for him, that he would feel like he's in control because he's one of two people in this building, and that the difference between him and a guy that was taking care of the customers is that he's supposed to be the manager. He's supposed to be in charge, but he has no authority because all he's supposed to do is take your package and give somebody else a package. That's it. Your job title holds no weight. The powerlessness that he's experienced before led to him trying to assert his authority in this particular position. Well, needless to say, I took the time to contact his upper management. And after I explained the situation to his upper management from a legal perspective, the next time I walked in a week later, same dog, same guy, same building. I got taken care of by the other guy, same guy that took care of me the last time. And the guy with the problem no longer had a problem. And with respect, I told him, have a good day on my way out. But I showed him better than I could tell him. I'm like, look, you cannot negatively impact somebody else on your own arbitrary opinion. It must be in line with not only company policies, but state and federal laws. And that is what people need to remember. Michael jumped up with boss. All right. A boss today is some young millennial brown noser. Now, these young kids these days, and that's one of the reasons why I got out of the workforce, working for somebody else, is when you know the boss, or when you know the boss's boss, if you're related to or some way, shape, or form good friends with the person that has the ability to make schedules and hire and fire people below you, you get this young buck who is on his own affiliation, trying to control the network. And the rest of us that are here trying not to lose our jobs because a person that he knows will get mad and take it out on us. We're now giving artificial authority to this young buck based on his connections. And this young buck does not know what authority is about. So now, because they just started getting that control, now they're starting to assert it, overly aggressive, almost like two of those Mormon guys that knock on your door trying to talk to you about Jesus while you're trying to take out the trash. And it is terrible because once this kid understands that you have to respect people in an authority position as an authority figure, that you have to appreciate and validate your workers so that they will stay loyal to you, because their paycheck only goes so far And then after that, they could probably find better somewhere else. At the end of the day, it is not one of those scenarios where you want to disrespect the people that put in the most effort to make you successful, because a manager is only as good as the least impactful employee on your shift. Just like a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, the manager is only as good as the least effective employee on a shift. Got to think about that. Look, BMW's in there with it now. Like and subscribe, y'all. If I'm dropping that heat today, y'all need to. I should have like 200 likes on this bad boy right now during this live podcast. Because I'm telling y'all like it is. This is what we don't. We observe it, but we don't acknowledge it. And because we don't acknowledge it, we don't address it. We go home, we bitch about it. We smoke a bowl or drink some brew or whatever, and we bitch about it, but we never do anything different about it. You got to let that guy know, hey man, if you need me to do something, I got you back, but you can't come to me with the bullshit, because you're not going to get nothing out of me with the bullshit. You know, and if you followed a lot of the other shows that I told you guys about, where we had the mini retirement show, we had the saving for emergency scenario where you're putting away 18 months worth of savings so that your standard of living is covered for 18 months. If this little bastard come on to your job and start talking shit, and you like, you know what, I don't need this job, and they can, if they can fire you or you can quit. I personally would force the fire. I would force termination. That's what I would do. I fuck being on a job that is going to force early retirement where I'm going to voluntarily. Nah. Let's talk about how you're going to pay me to walk off this job and never come back. I want to make money to go. Otherwise, I'm going to make money to stay. But one way or another, I'm going to make money. I'm not going to lose any benefits by saying, screw you guys, I'm out, and walk off with like my fist in the air like I did something by giving up all of my pension. No, fuck that shit. If this little bastard does not do right, you are going to have to fire me so that I can get unemployment compensation. That's how it's going to work. And I have plenty of money to stay at home for 2 years. So when you fire me, that'll be a long-standing vacation. Let's work this out. Otherwise, this little boy not going to tell me nothing. And that once you start having that level of assertiveness to recognize your value and the fact that you have nothing to lose in this situation, you'll be fine. Because the average American that's really trying to get a job doesn't stay unemployed for 12 months. That's the reason why unemployment compensation only covers you for 12 months. Because you're only not going to get a job inside of 3 months if you're not looking for 3 months. Eric said, or some kid who just graduated, who just graduated. You got to say it twice now. That wasn't a typo. You got to say it twice. He just graduated. Like the fucker still got his cap and gown on when he walked onto the damn job. Thought like we cared about that. Whose daddy got him the job because his daddy knows one of the people in management. And now you have to train your superior. I have had that happen plenty of times in my career. And I used to train my superiors. I used to train my replacements. But one thing I did do was I let them, once they got into that managerial position, I would let them know, look, I taught you how to do your job, and I can do your job better than you because I taught you how to do your job. So we're not going to argue about how I'm doing my job, because it is my job to teach you. So you are going to teach them what I taught you. You are going to show me the respect of a senior staff member, or you are going to have to fire me so that I can get my 2 years of vacation time, because you are not going to overthrow me in a system that I built and then taught to you. And I just let them know that, look, we can come to an understanding. I'm not going to defy every instruction that's coming to me, but I am going to set my parameters. I've been doing this for 5, 10, 20 years, 30 years. I know what I'm doing. When things change, I'm one of the first people to know about it. And then I teach everybody else. You could do better promoting me to a trainer position where I'm never in the regular productivity. I'm just with the people who don't know what they're doing. I'm fine with that. You know, give me a few pennies per person, give me a couple dollars per person. I'm fine with that. But for me to be the reason why your sales increase on a regular basis and you're going to come and talk to me about what somebody else didn't do? No, we're not going to have that. You'll get rid of me before I do anything different. That's how that works. Michael said, we love to live with misery. That is so true. That is so true. We love to live with misery. It becomes a blanket that feels warm and comfortable. And that is something that we don't want to change. And that really is the most dominant understanding of why we're talking about it today, is that because we have found it more comfortable for us to live in chaos, that is the reasons why we find chaotic jobs, we date chaotic people, we have chaotic friends, we allow ourselves to communicate with chaotic family members, because that is all we know. Then when we find ourselves overly stressed out with a chaotic lifestyle that we do not produce in, we do not contribute to the chaos, we just have to deal with the chaos. We have to recognize that we put ourselves in the chaotic lifestyle. We built the chaotic lifestyle that we are in. Then when we're trying to find ourselves a relationship, we are hesitant to pick a person or establish a person that should be in our lifestyle, because we're not trying to date a chaotic person, but we end up dating one. And when we're not trying to date a chaotic person, we're reluctant to tell what is presumably observed as a non-chaotic person that I, by definition, run a chaotic lifestyle. Everybody that I associate with got some kind of chaos that I have to United States into Iran and Israel kind of argument scenario, when I could have clearly had nothing to do with that. Yeah, I did it. I went there. Eric said those Mormon elder kids are legit. They have helped me move twice. Look, now you're gonna turn a bad situation into a good one. If them boys come through and you starting to unload the truck, it's like, hey, in Jesus' name, come get this box, young man. You want to talk to me about the Lord? You're gonna help me unload this truck, because you're not gonna stop us from being productive, so that you can ask me to come to your service. That's not what we about. I'm not coming to your service. I'm trying to load this truck. Y'all gotta realize, some people are too nice. They just want to sit there and stop what they're doing and listen and shoot the shimmy. But at the end of the day, I got better things to do than to have a scripture war with a young buck that walks around with a book trying to pretend like they're doing a good deed, when their whole goal is to come knock on doors and increase the congregation size, which increases the donation size, which increases the effective building fund that really pays all the pastors and deacons. Your goal, your agenda is not with positive intent. It is for you, but not for the people who are sending you out here. The positive intent is not there, because you're not literally coming out here to see if there's anybody in the society that needs your help. You're just looking for people who don't know what the fuck's going on in their life and they need direction, which is preying on the weak. And that's not what you're supposed to be doing when you're out there spreading the word. Bought some orc. Great timing. Actually, you could have bought that orc in like 3 days, but great timing though. If you buy the orc right now, the 29th, I do believe, 29th or 30th, should be ex-dividend date. Should get a payout before the 1st. So good to see that Eric bought some orc. Orc is cheaper than AG&C, so you grab you some orc. And orc is going to be on the rise, slowly but surely, because it used to level off at around 680, and now it's like around 724. So buying some orc. Orc is a good buy and hold, so it doesn't matter when you buy it if you're going to keep it. If you're going to buy it and then sell it, you wanted to wait until the 23rd to buy it if you're going to sell it by the 1st. But if you're going to buy it and keep it, it doesn't matter when you buy it. You buy you some orc, hold on to it, because as the market levels off and starts increasing, orc is going to go back up, because it was at one point in time at $19 a share. So the fact that it's like 724 or whatever, when the economy levels off with all the volatility that we got going on, stops and starts leveling things back off, orc is going to go all the way back up to $19 a share, which ultimately means that everybody who's buying it at less than $9 a share is going to see a 50%, a 200% double. Like it's literally gonna flip exponentially, still being valued at 12 cents a share if you're holding it, especially if you're holding it with ETFs. If you're holding it with ETFs and it goes up in value, if you've got $1,000 worth of shares at $7 a share, when those $7 a shares turns into $17 in shares, you will have like $2,000 or $3,000 worth of shares where they're still giving you 12 cents a share at your original $7 and some change value, which means the quantity of dividend distribution you're going to get is going to be astronomical in comparison to your original buy-in. So definitely go and grab that. Michael said, "They're the door. Good night." Yup. That's exactly how we do it. I used to tell my bosses on a regular basis, "You do not pay me to work. You pay me for my presence. And if I work while I'm here, you're lucky. But my work ethic is better than the work ethic of the other people in the room. So before you come to me and talk to me about how I'm doing my job, you make sure that you talk to everybody else that's not working as hard as me. As long as you do that, then you can come talk to me whenever you want." I used to set a precedent. Now, when you're in these situations where you're reenacting childhood traumas, where you used to be powerless, you're in a situation now where you couldn't save your parents, but you believe you can save your partner, the one that you're in a relationship with now. And setup prevents a true partnership between two equals because it also keeps you locked in a cycle of disappointment because people only change if they want to. When they innovatively fail to change, you're left feeling resentful and re-traumatized, confirming that old belief that your best efforts are never enough. Eric says, "I wish I got some BBAI earlier in the week." Um, I didn't check BBAI's ex-dividend date if you were trying to get paid off on that one, but BBAI is not going to pay as much dividends per dollar as some of the other stocks that we were watching this month, and the ones that are going to be paying out towards the end of this month and the beginning of next month. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't tell you, "Oh, hey, by the way, don't forget to go buy you some BBAI stock." But I am going to tell you that if you haven't gotten your AGNC stock alongside your Orchid Island stock, you should definitely go and grab you some AGNC stock. And if you're trying to do the dividend rotation strategy, the stock is still changing. We're looking at trying to grab as much as we can hold on to in about 3 days. And once we grab into that, because the stock is still dropping, we're going to grab ourselves some Zim stock and we're going to be holding on to that until the second. And on the third, we're going to start doing a whole sell-off scenario. So stock wise, Eric, that's where we're at. We've got AGNC, Orchid Island, and Zim stock that we're working our way into getting our hands on coming soon. So make sure that y'all follow us because I'm going to remind you in a few days, go buy that stock. And everybody who buys in, the same way JKS, I told y'all at the 2nd of July to have that JKS on your plate. Steven had got the JKS and he made a boatload off of it. So just note, it's in there for you. Now, simmering back on over to this scenario, because we got a little bit more. Healing from this ongoing repetitiveness isn't about getting a different person to give you what your parent couldn't. It's about grieving the past and learning to give yourself what you always needed. It means stepping out of the role of savior and choosing a partner who is already whole, somebody who doesn't need to be fixed. The third and most fundamental scenario, the pattern, is rooted in what's known as your attachment style, developed by psychologist John Bowlby, attachment theory says that the bond you formed with your caregiver is your first few years created a blueprint for all future relationships. And this blueprint shapes your beliefs about your own worthiness of love and whether others are reliable. So when caregivers are constantly responsive and available, we develop a secure attachment. We learn we are lovable and that others can be trusted. But when the bond is disrupted by trauma or neglect, it creates core wounds, deep, painful beliefs like I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, or I will always be abandoned. These wounds then lead to insecure attachment styles, which are basically copying strategies we've developed as kids to deal with unreliable caregivers. And these strategies, while brilliant for survival in childhood, become dysfunctional in adult relationships. Okay, there are three main insecurity styles. First is anxious attachment. This often develops with an inconsistent caregiver, sometimes loving, other times distant. The child learns they have to ramp up their needs to get attention. As an adult, they live with a deep fear of abandonment. They crave closeness, but constantly worry their partner will leave. In a toxic dynamic, an anxious partner is often drawn to an emotionally unavailable or avoided partner. The partner's distance triggers the anxious person's deepest fears, causing them to pursue even more desperately, which in turn makes the avoidant partner pull away further. This is a classic anxious avoidant trap. Second is avoidant attachment. Good lineup. This often forms when a caregiver is constantly rejecting or distant. The child learns that showing emotion leads to rejection, so they stop adapt by becoming hyper independent. As an adult, the avoidant person equates intimacy with a loss of freedom. And a lot of, look, this is those shave your head, burn your bra people that are marching through the streets right now, complaining about the government that we have, where intimacy is now being frowned upon because they feel like it is a loss of freedom. They are uncomfortable with emotional closeness and pride themselves on self sufficiency masked as independence. In a relationship, they often pick an anxious partner whose neediness reinforces their core beliefs that relationships are suffocating, giving them a reason to keep their walls up, which is why I do not do boundaries. I have non negotiable expectations for behavior. You get as close to me as you want, but if your behavior is unacceptable, you gotta go. Third, and often stemming from more severe trauma, is disorganized attachment or fearful avoidance. This is a painful mix of both anxious and avoidance styles. This happens when a caregiver is both a source of comfort and a source of fear. As an adult, the disorganized person both craves and fears intimacy. They desperately want love, but are terrified that anyone they get close to will hurt them. So their relationships are often chaotic and volatile, pulling someone in one moment, then pushing them away the next. We mistaken this as narcissistic behavior. Not always the case. They're trapped by the conflicting wounds of I need you and you will hurt me at the same time. Understanding your attachment style is fundamental to breaking the cycle. It's not about labeling yourself, it's about understanding the survival strategy you developed and realizing that you can learn a new, healthier way to connect. Hearing all of this might feel overwhelming. A lot of you might not like it. You might feel sad, angry, or even hopeless. If you do, just take a breath or three. The fact that you've listened this far is the most courageous step you can take. Awareness. Simply understanding these patterns is a huge victory. It shifts the story from what's wrong with me to what happened to me and how did I adapt. That's the shift from self blame to self compassion. And it's where all healing begins. Hold on, he says, hold on, I got you. Special shout out to local fatty. He says Trump's third biggest donor was in Israel. He says her and her husband have donated 557 million over the past 30 years to politics. So yeah, we are the United States of Israel. Everything that everybody does in politics is motivated by money or influence, where the influencer was motivated by money. It's what it is. So if somebody gave out a large quantity of cash that led to us running over there and knocking over a mountain that was full of nukes, then, they could have gave me that $557 million and I would have found better things to do with it. But, ain't nobody trying to see my financial strategy. Because if they did, they would be sliding that $550 million over here by me, and I'd be turning that into $1 billion every year. It is what it is. So how do you move forward after experiencing something like this? It is a process, not a quick fix. Nothing that we talk about on this show is an overnight sensational quick fix. But here are some essential steps that you can utilize to get started. First, grieve what you didn't get, right? We have to honor the past before we can build a new future. Allow yourself to feel the real pain and sadness for the safety and love you may not have received. Unprocessed grief drives our subconscious choices. So validating your own experience is what allows the wounds to finally stop bleeding into your present life. The next thing you want to do is become a student of your own patterns. And a lot of you might feel more comfortable with becoming a student of your own patterns before you even start grieving your past. But if you get curious, nevertheless, observing yourself without judgment, what did love feel like in your childhood home versus what roles did you play? And look at your past relationships. What are the common themes? Who do your exes remind you of? Keeping a journal can help you see the patterns, and just naming them starts to loosen their grip. Third thing you're going to want to do is reparent your inner child. This is about learning to give yourself the things you did not receive from your caregiver that are ideally non-monetary things. It means becoming the loving, stable parent to yourself that you always needed. When you feel anxious, you can learn to soothe yourself instead of seeking validation. When you make a mistake, you can offer yourself compassion instead of criticism. It's about learning to validate your own feelings and set boundaries to protect yourself. Another thing you're going to do is practice new behavior. Healing requires new actions and will feel uncomfortable at first. It's going to feel weird. It's going to feel strange. It's going to give you the ick, but you're going to do it anyway. Because if you're anxious, it might mean not sending the fifth text. It means sitting with the discomfort and trusting that the right person will show up. If you're avoidant, it might mean sharing one small vulnerability, even when every instinct screams you shouldn't do it. If you're telling yourself you should shut it down, that is when you're going to just come out with one level of vulnerability. These are some small acts that rewire your brain. Then you want to learn to get comfortable with calm. This might sound strange, but for someone used to chaos, a healthy relationship can feel uncomfortable. Peace can feel like boredom. A good promotion on a job that seems boring because it is not a chaotic position might not make you feel comfortable. Think about it. Part of the journey is teaching your nerve system that calm is safe and consistency is love. It means learning to receive kindness without sabotaging. Then you guys want to seek professional support. You don't have to do this alone. And I understand that having friends and family members to talk to is good. It does help you maintain stability emotionally and otherwise. But there are things that you cannot tell your family members, and there are things that you cannot tell your friends, because no matter how much you love and care for them, and no matter how much you think they love and care for you, people in general are vengeful. And if you say or do something that hurts them, either by fear or by damaging their emotional state, they will lash out against you by using your deepest, darkest secrets in the most inappropriate location so that you can feel the hurt that they felt from you, even if your actions were not intentional. So, to prevent that damage from happening between you and your loved ones, or you want to make sure that the core development of oneself is done with a non-biased, neutral party that you only engage for this specific purpose. That way, nothing you do in your life will trigger a retaliation of opening the vault of secrets and letting it out to the world. So, a qualified, trauma informed therapist can provide a safe space and tools to help you heal. Therapists like EMDR, uh, somatic expressing, and attachment based psychotherapy are designed to heal the root causes of trauma. A good therapist is a guide who can help you navigate the past and build the skills for a better future. Your attachment patterns are not a life sentence, they are a learned strategy. And anything that can be learned can be unlearned. It takes 66 days of consecutive behavior to develop a habit. It might take at least half that, if not twice as long, depending on how stubborn you are, to break the pattern. But the patterns that keep you stuck are not a sign that you're broken. They are a testament to your resilience. So they are the strategies your younger self created to survive. Today, as an adult, you have a choice. You can thank that younger part of you for its protection and gently let it know that you're safe now, that you can take it from here. Healing isn't about erasing your past, which is why I say that you have to forgive by releasing the emotional attachment you have to the event and then let it go. Don't forget it, let it go, meaning don't dwell on it anymore. Then, when we start looking at uh, integrating it so that it no longer controls you, you want to take what you've experienced in your past and integrate it into your future activities, in a way where it is no longer controlling you or subconsciously causing you to perform negative actions in comparison to your expected outcomes. So you have the power to break the cycle and learn what healthy love feels like. First, with yourself, then with your partner who is truly worthy of you. And I know that this was a lot to take in. If you feel comfortable, I'd love to hear if you guys could share one insight you gained from this particular topic or any of the other topics that we've covered for that matter. You can throw that information into the comments down below. Reading each other's experiences reminds us that we are not alone on this journey. And if today's show resonated with you and you want to keep learning how to build your healthy relationships that you deserve, please make sure that you subscribe and you turn on those notification buttons. And most importantly, if you're struggling, please consider reaching out to a mental health professional because you deserve that support. You deserve to heal. And we'll leave some resources in some of the, I'm going to try to see if I can put some into the descriptions to help you guys with starting the journey, as well as in the membership, there's going to be some lists of individuals that you guys can utilize going forward. Because we got a lot of things in the description right now. There's a whole laundry list of things in the description right now. But noticing what we're talking about right now today, I'm like, well, we could probably find some individuals that could benefit you guys and throw that into the description. Either way, I really appreciate you guys for staying as long as you have. You guys have been phenomenal. I really appreciate you guys, Bayside, Eric, Michael, BMW lover, Jesse. I really appreciate you guys, Rickshaw, for coming to the show tonight and giving positive influence. I really thank you guys so much. I'm going to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And then, fellas, we are a 75% male-driven podcast from the male's perspective. So I do this in order to help you guys become higher value men by improving yourselves in your personal lives as well as in your financial lives. But ladies, this is not gender exclusive information. You ladies can take this information and learn how to make yourselves better. If there's anything in your life that you don't like, that you would like to change, just the way Jesse came onto the show today and asked us about our promotion, you guys can ask somebody an opportunity, because here on This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we will give you another way. This is what we do. And we do research on it 7 days a week. So if I don't have the answer for you today, I definitely will have the answer for you tomorrow. This is what we do. So notice we've got Friday up there already for you. After Friday, I'm between tonight and tomorrow, we're going to be booking Saturday and Sunday up there so that you guys can hit the notification buttons on the ones that are coming up. And also probably going to have Tuesday and Wednesday, because I did say that we were going to be doing it starts with an S. I can't think about it off the top of my head, but I did already start booking the show. So we have our Wednesday country that we're going to be talking about this coming Wednesday. And we have some topics that we're going to be talking about Tuesday. And I haven't quite figured out what the political beef is going to be on Monday. But before Monday, I'll have it set up for you. In the meantime, I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And tomorrow night at about 11:35 Eastern Standard Time, that is when we're going to be airing, which is 10:35 Central Time, and that's about 7:35 California time. So if you guys are going to come back for some of the other things that we've got going on for you, I will see you guys tomorrow night. And if you don't, you're going to be missing out on a lot, because throughout the week, even on the weekends, we definitely, I update the ticker to let you guys know what the stock values are. And we also start talking about trades and stuff. And if I find anything over the weekend that I didn't already have on my plate at the beginning of the week, that is something that you guys can benefit from by trades coming on Monday, I definitely let you guys know. So make it a point to swing back by, because we don't just talk about one thing on the show. We talk about a plethora of things. And at some point during the show, we typically try to talk about money as well. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys one more time, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.